Hello, my name is George, and in this video lesson I'm going to show you how to use CS5's Liquify filter to push pixels around and produce a variety of creative results. We're going to kick off by taking this start image and we're going to extend the person's natural features to create a caricature in which the eyebrow is even more raised using the forward warp tool, and we're going to use that tool as well just to give a more pointy ear and also a nice movie star cleft chin. You can even add a bit of a smile to the face as well, and we're going to use other tools too, like the bloat tool to make the eyes enlarge in the caricature style, and we're also going to use the turbulence tool just to create a little bit of a creative contact lens look to the eyes themselves. So there's quite a few things to do there. We're then going to move on to take this spooky start image and we're going to add some fractal generated clouds and then use the Liquify filter's twirl clockwise tool just to create some blurred blowing mist, so we can actually then add a little bit more realistic effects to this mist, and I'll show you how to do that. And along the way you'll learn how to freeze certain areas so they're protected from being liquefied, and then how to change the strength of the brush to make sure you don't get over the top, because it's really easy to get blown away by the pixel pushing powers of the Liquify filter. And talking of that, let's take the start image, which is called Liquify Opener Before, and we'll pop up and find the Liquify command up here, go down to Liquify, click, and you'll get this nice large interface appear with a variety of different tools and settings, and we'll explore these in due course. But let's kick off with an overview of the interface. You can zoom in and out using these tools down the bottom here to get a closer look at your image, and the tools that you're going to use are down here, like forward warp, reconstruct, twirl clockwise, and so on. We're going to come across these as we move through this lesson. On the right here, these brush-based tools can be modified to change the way they behave and to make them more subtle or more powerful depending on the needs of the image. You can also reconstruct things as well using these buttons here and step back through your changes to actually undo things that are a little bit over the top, and you can also add masks as well, and we're going to use these tools here just to freeze particular areas to stop them from being changed. But let's kick off down here, because what we're going to do is actually show a mesh, and we're going to change the size to large, and you can change the color as well. And if it's going to contrast with the red and the pink of the image there, we may as well use a nice blue color, but you can use other colors to suit the particular photograph's needs. So a mesh is really useful because it helps you work out exactly how much liquefying is going on in your particular image. Now, as we've only got one layer to work with, we don't need to show backdrop, so untick that for the moment, but we will come back to that later when we start to add our spooky mist to the haunted house. But let's kick off with the classic tool here. The forward warp tool is the most commonly used tool in the Liquify filter. It's very similar to the smudge tool, but you've got more control over it thanks to these settings here. So let's set the brush size to around about 428, just to take it down a little bit for a more eyebrow friendly size, and we're going to set the density as well to something much lower so we can control things in more gentle increments by typing in a value of 47, and again keep the brush pressure quite low to 30. If you move over these, you can see we get a clue as to what they do, and the edge of the brush will become more powerful with a higher setting. So we take that down to 47, then the edges don't change as dramatically, and it helps it blend more effectively with unedited pixels around the edge of the brush stroke. So if we just click and spray, we can then start to extend the eyebrow, and we can take that up a little bit in a more organic and natural way that suits people's flesh. So I'm just going to pull these muscles up here as well a little bit. A few clicks is all you need to make quite a realistic but significant caricature style eyebrow. So we'll take those up, and you can see that the mesh is actually bending and warping, and that gives you a better idea of what's going on. We can even turn off show image, and you can see how we're liquefying and distorting the mesh like so. But turn that on again so you can actually see what you're doing on the picture's pixels. Now we can do lots of different things with the forward warp tool. If I use the left square bracket, I can scale it down a little bit, or you can see the brush size changing up there, and then we can click and push up just in the chin here, pull these bits down to create a kind of movie star cleft chin. Is it Kirk Douglas I'm thinking of? Yeah, it probably is. So there you can actually fine tune the chin there, do a little bit of plastic surgery, and if we just go up to the ear, we've got a raised eyebrow Dr. Spock style, so we could always take the brush tip down a little bit more and then just gently elongate the ear with a few clicks. Because I'm using fairly low values here, it takes a few clicks, but a few clicks give you more control than one really powerful brush tip, so it's just a nicer way to do a more subtle warp there, like so. Now traditionally caricature style images tend to have very large eyes, and we can do that with the bloat tool. But before we do it, we want to just protect the areas we've actually changed already by using this tool here, and this is the freeze mask tool. Make sure that you've got show mask turned on. You can choose a color for that. We'll stick with red, and then what we can do is just click and spray over these areas here. You can see the mesh is the area that's actually changed, and that will just allow us to bloat the eye and make it larger without changing the area above that we've actually carefully warped with the forward warp tool. So now that we've protected this area, we can now go to the bloat tool, which is this one here, bloating outwards, and we can set these attributes up to create the effect that we want. So type in 574 to the brush size, set the density down to about 57, and what we'll do with the brush rate is just reduce that down to 31, and then as you click over the center here, you can see it's bloating outwards, and because the density is not too strong, we're not bloating the edge as much as we're bloating the center, and 3 or 4 clicks will give us a larger caricature style eye. I can't resist one more click. There we go. And because we've frozen this red area here, none of that can be changed by the bloat tool unless we want to unfreeze it by using this tool here, which is the thaw mask tool. So you could then click and spray to remove some of the areas from the protecting area of the mask. So that's a really cool way of just controlling exactly which areas are going to be warped or liquefied and which areas are going to stay frozen. Now, if you've gone too far with your editing, you can always reconstruct it a little bit, either by clicking Reconstruct All to just go back to the original mesh, or you can go back through history by clicking here, or you can spray in a more organic way by using the Reconstruct tool. So remember that eye has been really exaggerated. If I just click and spray a little bit, I can reduce it a few steps so it's not quite as over the top as it was before. So that's quite a cool way of fine-tuning things. What I'm going to do is Control Z to undo that, because I do actually want the eye to be bulging. But this tool here, you can apply that to any areas. If we want to do it over this area here, we can reduce the strength of the chin or fine-tune the ear as well. Control Z to undo that, because I like that ear. But it's a really powerful way of just taking control of your edits. Now we're going to add some crazy contact lenses by clicking here to select the turbulence tool, and then use these settings here: 17 for the size, density 52, pressure 97, brush rate 60, and we'll go for a really turbulent jitter of 100. Then you can just click and drag outwards to extend the natural iris colors out into the circle of the whites there in the eye, and you end up with these kind of spiky effects that kind of taper off very quickly. You could always mask the outside area of the eye just to stop this tool changing any of the other eye sections, but I'm just going to use freehand to kind of create the effect that I want. Spacebar gets the hand tool, drag to this other eye, and we'll give that the contact lens treatment as well, just by adding a few of these crazy spikes like so. So this is a cool way of just distorting things. Turbulence is really a quite an erratic and powerful tool. If I just whack up the brush size and then click and hold over another area just like this, you can see it's actually just doing all sorts of really melty, distorty things. So Control Z to undo. Turbulence can be very powerful, but we're using it in a very small brush tip there just to edit the eyes. But you can do other things with it, of course, as well. And we'll keep the turbulence changes quite subtle. I'm just going to click here on Mask Options to turn off this masked area, and there is our finished result. We can also turn off the mesh as well to get a better look at our liquefied filtered person. So when you're happy, click OK to apply the liquefy effect, and it can take quite a while because it's doing quite a lot of complicated things to the shot. And here we have the edited image. Control Z to undo, there's the before, and then edit, redo liquefy to see the after version with the eyebrow raise, the contact lenses, the cleft chin, and the pointy ear. And of course you may decide to go back into the liquefy command by going to filter liquefy and choosing the forward warp tool and just reducing the brush size down a little bit and giving him a bit of a sardonic sneer or maybe a smile depending on the expression that you need. So we just click and drag, we can take up the corner of the lips there a little bit more. Not too over the top, click OK, and then that's a good way of changing facial expression on people that just absolutely refuse to smile. Though you might have to do a bit more work on some of the other face muscles to make it a bit more realistic. So that's how to use liquefy to create a caricature. Let's add some swirling mist now using some of the other liquefy tools, but kick off by opening liquefy mist before, and then we'll create a new layer and press D for the foreground and background to be black and white, and then we'll add some clouds by going to filter, go down to render, and choose clouds. And that's a good way of starting off with a texture. We can then select the lightest parts by going to the channels palette, and then up pops the channels like so. And what we can do is control click on one of these channels here. This one here, RGB, should do the trick, and that will then select the brightest parts of the channel like so. We can go back to our main layer here, and then click Add a Mask, and that will create a mask based on the selection, and that hides the darker parts but leaves the lighter parts visible. We don't need the channels anymore, so click here, and you can see there we've got the beginnings of our spooky mist. Let me just open up the layers palette a wee bit more so you can see what's going on. There's the layer mask there, and we don't need that mask anymore because we've created the holes in the mist, so right click on it and choose Apply Layer Mask. We're now going to use another mask to make this mist fade out towards the top, so select the layer, click Add Layer Mask again, and now we're going to grab the Gradient tool. We're going to click up here and choose Foreground to Transparent, click OK, and then make sure you've got this Linear Gradient option clicked, and we're then ready to click on the mask and then drag from the bottom to the top, and that will give us a faded area at the top where it's black but the mist is showing through near the bottom. If you want a higher mist, then just click and drag a little bit further up and keep on drawing until you've got the misty effect that you like. Now that the mask has done its job, we can right click and choose Apply Layer Mask. We're now selecting the main misty layer, and we can then pop up to Filter and go back into the comfort of the Liquify command like so, and we can then start to move our mist around in a more natural way. So there's our spooky mist, but at this stage we can't really see the mist because there's nothing really standing out in the background, so we need to do this by clicking Show Backdrop. We can see the image, set it to use all layers, set the mode to behind, and set the opacity to 100 so you make the background nice and strong, and you get a much better look at that mist. And of course we can also turn on Show Mesh so we can see what the mist is going to look like. Once we start to distort the mesh, we can actually see the kind of twirling and distortion that we're going to do more clearly. I'm going to Control Plus just to zoom in and get a closer look at some of that mist, and we're going to use the Twirl Clockwise tool because this is perfect for distorting the mist in a natural way. You can set up these attributes here to get the right size and strength for the brush tip, and then just click and spray, and that just gently twirls the mist and begins to make it look a little bit more realistic. You can Control Z to undo if it's too much, or you can use the Reconstruct tool to take some of the mist back to its original state, and just a quick click is all you really need, a little drag as well, to start to twirl the mist in a more spooky and natural way. So I'm just going to carry on doing that, and then when I'm ready I'm going to click OK to apply the twirl to our billowing mist, and then we can just do some fine tuning there just to make it look a little bit more realistic. Okay, that'll do for the moment. Click OK, and there is the application of the Liquify result, and we should then see the edited mist appear in the main window. Okay, I've applied the mist, and there you can see it's beginning to move around in a more natural way, but what we need to do is just make the mist fade to white at the bottom there because it's more dense at the bottom, and to do that I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to grab the Gradient tool again, I'm going to set the foreground colour to white, click up here and choose Foreground to Transparent. Click OK, make sure you've got this Linear Gradient selected again, and then if we just click from the bottom upwards a little bit, we should be able to then add a white mist just getting heavier at the bottom and then starting to swirl and curl towards the top like so. I'd like to point out that for a better blend on the mist layer, I've changed the blending mode to screen. When you're on normal, it's a little bit more grey, but if you go down to screen, then you get a lighter, whiter mist, and it gets rid of some of the greyer pixels that are remaining. You can always make the mist more intense by duplicating layer 1, by dragging it onto here, and that just gives you a stronger mist effect. Now, to make it more atmospheric, we're going to turn down the light a little bit and make it cooler and bluer for a more nocturnal look. So to do that, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to add a hue saturation adjustment layer, and I'm going to use it to colorize the tones in the shot. Now, the cool thing is with colorize, it changes the midtones, but it doesn't change the brightest, whitest mist, so you still get that nice color there, and we get some nice dark black shadows too. But what we need to do is go for a more day for night effect by choosing a bluer hue. So something around about 221 should do the trick and create a nice atmospheric effect. I'm then going to add one more layer mask by clicking here and choosing levels, and I'm just going to darken the shadows to create a much more dramatic contrast there. I'm just going to pop that below the other particular layer. In fact, I'm going to put it below the mist, so it's just changing the background building there. So there's the finished result thanks to the Twirl Clockwise tool, and that's a great way to create a moody mist. You can also, of course, use the Bloat tool on the eye to create caricatures, and also the Forward Warp tool to modify muscles and create new expressions.